There is a war happening inside you right now. Not the kind anyone can see, not the kind you talk about at dinner. A quiet, invisible war between two versions of yourself. One version knows exactly what it wants, what it needs, what would make it come alive. The other version is terrified of that exact thing. And every single day, one of them wins. The question is, which one? You versus your wishes. Who won? You had a wish once. Maybe you still have it. Maybe it's sitting somewhere in the back of your mind right now, watching you live a life that looks nothing like it. That wish, it wasn't small, it wasn't casual. It was the thing that made your chest feel bigger when you thought about it. The thing that made you believe, just for a moment, that your life could be different. Maybe it was a place you wanted to live, a thing you wanted to create, a person you wanted to become, a risk you wanted to take. It didn't matter what it was. What mattered is that when you thought about it, you felt something. Possibility, aliveness, a version of yourself you could actually respect. And then, somewhere along the way, you stopped moving toward it. Not all at once, slowly, in 100 small compromises that seemed reasonable at the time. And now, years later, you're standing in a life that works, that functions, that other people would call good. But when you're honest with yourself, in those quiet moments no one else sees, you know the truth. Your wish didn't win. You did. And somehow, that doesn't feel like victory. She had always wanted to write. Not as a hobby, not on weekends. She wanted to write the way other people need to breathe. She had stories in her that felt more real than her daily life. Characters she knew better than her coworkers. Worlds she could describe in detail, even though they only existed in her mind. But writing doesn't pay the bills, at least not at first. So she got a job, a good job, a stable job, the kind of job her parents were proud of, and she told herself, I'll write on the side, I'll do both. But the side kept shrinking. First it was evenings, then it was weekends, then it was maybe next month. And slowly, without announcing itself, the wish faded into the background. Still there, still aching, but quieter now, easier to ignore. 20 years later, she has a career, a home, a life that anyone would call successful. But when someone asks her, what do you do? She answers with her job title. And somewhere inside her, the version of herself that wanted to write hears that answer and dies a little more. The wish didn't lose because it was impossible. It lost because she was more afraid of failing at it than she was of never trying it at all. Here's what psychology tells us about the war between you and your wishes, and it explains everything. Every human being has two competing drives. The first drive is the drive toward growth, toward becoming, toward the fullest expression of who you actually are. Psychologists call this self-actualization. It's the part of you that wants to write the book, start the business, move to the new city, tell the truth, take the leap. This drive doesn't care about safety. It cares about aliveness. And the second drive is the drive toward security, toward stability, toward the known and predictable. This is the part of you that wants to keep your job even if you hate it, stay in the relationship even if it's not right, live in the same town because it's familiar. This drive doesn't care about aliveness. It cares about survival. And here's the problem. Both drives are legitimate. Both are trying to protect you, but they want completely opposite things. And every single day, you have to choose which one wins. Most people, without even realizing it, let the second drive win. Not because it's better, but because it's louder. Because fear is always louder than desire. The wish says,
what if it works? The fear says, what if it doesn't? And the fear always sounds more reasonable, more responsible, more adult. So you listen to it, and you call that maturity. But it's not maturity. It's surrender dressed up as wisdom. You know this feeling, that moment when you had the idea, the real one, the one that made your heart race, and immediately the other voice started. That's not realistic. You don't have time. You don't have money. You don't have experience. Other people have tried and failed. What makes you think you're different? And you listened because the voice sounded like logic, like reason, like the responsible choice. But here's what that voice never tells you. It's not protecting you from failure. It's protecting you from uncertainty. And uncertainty, the unknown, the untested, the not yet proven, is where every meaningful thing you've ever wanted lives. Your wish isn't on the safe side of the equation. It's on the other side, the side that requires you to not know how it ends. And most people, when faced with that choice, choose the known suffering over the unknown possibility. They choose the life they can predict over the life they actually want. Not because they don't want it, but because wanting it and not having it feels more painful than not trying it at all. So what happens to the wish when you choose safety? Does it disappear? Does it go quietly? No, it stays. It sits in the back of your mind like a guest who wasn't invited to leave. And every time you see someone else doing the thing you wanted to do, writing the book, starting the company, living in the place, taking the risk, it wakes up and it reminds you. Not cruelly, not loudly, just persistently. That could have been you. And the cruelest part, you can't even hate the life you built instead, because it's good, it works, other people would be grateful for it, so you feel guilty for wanting more, ungrateful for not being satisfied, foolish for still thinking about the thing you didn't do, and that guilt becomes another reason to stay exactly where you are. You versus your wishes, and the score isn't even close. But here's the part no one talks about, the part that changes everything if you can hear it. It's not too late. That sentence feels like a cliché, like something a motivational poster would say. But it's not motivation, it's biology. As long as you are alive, the drive toward growth is still in you. Quieter, maybe, buried under years of compromise, but not gone, never gone. The question is not, can I still do it? The question is, am I willing to choose it this time? Because here's the truth. You will never feel ready. You will never have enough time. You will never have all the answers. The circumstances will never be perfect. The only thing that will ever change is your willingness to move anyway. And that willingness doesn't come from confidence. It doesn't come from certainty. It comes from something quieter. It comes from the simple recognition that the life you're living, the safe one, the predictable one, is slowly killing the part of you that matters most. And one day, you will be too old to take the risk. One day, it will actually be too late. And the only thing worse than failing at your wish is never knowing if you could have. Most people will spend their entire lives negotiating with their wishes, promising themselves later, waiting for the right time, convincing themselves that choosing safety over aliveness is the smart choice. And maybe it is. Maybe they're right. Maybe the wish was never realistic. Maybe it wouldn't have worked anyway. But they'll never know. And that not knowing becomes the ghost they carry for the rest of their lives. The ones who don't carry that ghost, they're not special. They're not braver. They're not more talented. They just decided at some point that the fear of not trying it was finally bigger than the fear of failing at it. And they moved. Not perfectly, not with guarantees. They just moved. And here's what no one tells you about that movement. It doesn't feel like victory at first. It feels like terror, like stepping off a cliff with no idea if you'll fly or fall. But somewhere in that terror, something shifts. You stop being the person who has a wish, and you start being the person who's living it. And that shift, that identity shift, is worth more than the outcome ever could be. Because even if you fail, you won't be the person who didn't try, and that is the only version of yourself you'll actually be able to live with. So ask yourself right now, honestly, no performance, no one is watching, you versus your wishes, who's winning? And if the answer makes your chest feel heavy, that's not weakness, that's clarity.
That's clarity. That's your wish, still alive, still waiting, reminding you that it's not over yet. The war is still happening, and you still get to choose which side wins. Most people never do. Now you can.